Iron Fist got some pretty insane changes going into season 4.5 of Marvel Rivals, with some players even calling him the new Wolverine. My name is Paz, an Eternity player on the competitive ladder, and I'm going to tell you all of the things you need to know in order to pop off and carry your ranked games as Iron Fist. Starting off, understand that oddly enough, Iron Fist is a character that is a lot like Daredevil. He has a lot of versatility given the situation. He can both dive and brawl depending on the situation with what you have and what the enemies have, with excellent tools to deal tons of damage across the fight. Lots of what makes Iron Fist so good comes down to understanding what your team needs though. When in doubt, meditate, force out cooldowns from the enemies with some punches and then a parry, and then brawl out after kicking back to your team, dealing insane damage to the enemy tanks. With that understanding out of the way, let's get into the kit of Iron Fist. Before we move on into the damaging parts of his kit though, let's start talking about Iron Fist's passives, Chi Absorption and Wall Runner. Starting with Chi Absorption, anytime the Iron Fist takes down an enemy himself or gets an assist in doing so, he gains 50 bonus health. This allows him to stay engaged in the fight for longer to get even more done as time goes on, which is very helpful on a melee hero. Moving on to his Wall Runner passive, Iron Fist can attach to walls by holding the jump button, running at a speed of 9 meters per second. While on the wall, you can move up by pressing W or holding your movement stick forward on console, but keep in mind, you will always maintain horizontal movement. You can't just stop and stand there on the wall. You can also just move in a straight line if you hold space without holding a movement key at all. You just can't move down the wall by holding S or pulling down on your movement stick, which is a little weird, I'll say, but you know, you can just jump off the wall and fall if you really need to. Because you can't stall out your movement and stand still on a wall, typically you use the wall climb before the fight and then meditate above the choke that you're planning on fighting on, just while you're waiting for supports from the enemy team to walk through for you to punch. We'll touch a little bit more on this later, but that's kind of the general idea of these passives and then the meditate too. Movement is everything though on Iron Fist, so let's cover his triple jump ability next, Crane Leap. Iron Fist gets 3 different jumps that he can perform consecutively, with each charge having a 1-second cooldown. In other words, Iron Fist can practically fly. This ability might seem extremely simple, but I promise you there are a lot of different techs with it. For example, when you use your jumps in the air, they don't actually start recharging their cooldowns until you touch a surface with your 2 feet. So what you can do is use your jumps, then run on a wall to maintain your height while also charging your next jumps to come back online. Then you can use your kick to close distance on a flyer, for example, and attach to them with your primary attack. You can also just jump 3 times, attach to a wall, and then meditate to recharge the jump cooldowns while you're just chilling anyways before a fight. This jump is also super useful to dodge damage from characters like Iron Man or any other splash damage characters. The same is also true for dodging ultimates like The Thing. Although something like a Jeff ultimate doesn't really work, it's better to just parry that, and we'll talk about that a little more later. It's also just going to be in the B-roll you're going to be seeing right now on screen. Let's now start talking about his first primary attack, his basic punches. Iron Fist strikes enemies with a 6-punch combo, with the first 5 punches dealing 30 damage, and then the final punch dealing 55 damage while also launching enemies up. This effect is really annoying, especially if you're playing a flying character, as the launching up effect actually brings you down slightly on that flying character, where then you lose agency of your character. It's really annoying. As someone that played Johnny quite a bit when he was strong in the past couple of seasons, I'm telling you right now, Iron Fist was one of my least favorite matchups. It genuinely felt unplayable if the Iron Fist got onto me. And you know, what's weird is like I wouldn't die with the Iron Fist on me, but I couldn't do anything, and then I would get shot by his Hela, for example. So again, Iron Fist against flyers, actually really freaking annoying. You also don't have to hit the full combo on a flyer to knock them down, up, whatever you want to do. You can actually just charge the combo on the ground by punching a wall or maybe just another target in the fight, and then you save that 6th strike for someone in the air. It's really tilting. You can also just do 5 punches, use your kick that we're going to be talking about soon towards an enemy flyer, and then you can punch them with the launch up effect with this grace window. It's extremely tilting. This isn't everything with the ability though. To make it easier to hit your enemies, you can also punch to lunge at targets that are a maximum of 6 meters away from you. You'll know whether or not you can actually lunge them when there's this like Kingdom Hearts lock-on circle that goes on the enemies. It's actually pretty sick. It even comes up when your vision is obstructed, like on the new map, for example. You can sit in the smoke and just punch people even if you can't see them. The lock-on effect will still be there. You just can't lock on through shields though, which is pretty annoying if you're trying to fight from the front line. You can still punch through the shield, you can't just lock on though. For every single hit you get on an enemy as well, you're gonna be reducing your parry cooldown by 1 second, so you can get it back pretty quick, and since it is on a 15-second cooldown, you're going to want to make sure that you're landing some punches. Finally, in terms of movement, you can actually stall your fall to the ground by punching the air, which can be extremely helpful if you're trying to connect to flyers, or if you're just trying to chill in the sky where it may be a lot more safe. With this knowledge in mind, what is the basic primary used for? More often than not, this is not the ability you want to use to actually kill enemies. Instead, this is going to be used to either harass the enemies so they look at you and can't play the game. Those rage bait Spider-Man TikToks you kind of see all the time, yeah, that's pretty much the embodiment of Iron Fist's primary punches, and honestly just his gameplay in general until he gets online. Since his parry gives him access to the big damage punches, you pretty much just use these punches to force out cooldowns like snowballs from Lunar or any other CC that they might send your way, and then what's going to happen is you're going to parry, respond with a huge flurry of damage, and then use your normal punches to get back online and rage bait enemies again until you can just go again and again and again. So let's now transition into the parry that gives Iron Fist access to those strong punches that we were talking about, Dragon's Defense. Upon holding right click by default, Iron Fist assumes a defensive stance and blocks incoming damage from all directions. He can deflect any and everything from a simple Luna Snow snowball to Magneto and Iron Man abilities. All damage sent his way is blocked and turned into blue bonus health with a maximum of 175 health if he parries enough. The ratio for health conversion is that for every 1 point of damage you deal, you're going to actually be getting 1.3 points of bonus health. So in a lot more easy terms, 100 damage taken means 130 bonus health gain. In other words, against Iron Fist, predict when he's going to parry, and please, for the love of Guang Guang, do not shoot him while he is parrying. The parry lasts for 1 second, and then you can shoot him after, as he won't have the parry for another 15 seconds. So please just be patient. Just keep in mind that normal punches will reduce the cooldown for the parry by 1 second per punch landed outside of the ultimate. After the parry goes down, you then get a 5-second window of 30% damage reduction while also gaining access to the new ability that we're going to be talking about now, which is his Empowered Punch. So after using Dragon's Defense, Iron Fist unlocks his Empowered primary attack for 5 seconds, denoted by the meter around his crosshair, no matter how much damage is blocked. In this stance, Iron Fist punches targets 7 times a second. Each punch does 8 damage, plus 3.1% of the target's maximum HP. To put this into perspective, this means that Iron Fist deals 230 damage per second to Venom, 197 damage per second to Magneto and Emma, and 116 damage per second to a character like Luna Snow with 275 HP. This is absolutely insane, and he does crazy amounts of damage. So too long didn't read, don't really care about the math or thinking about all this stuff yourself. Iron Fist deals way more damage to tanks in this form compared to squishy targets, but just keep in mind, attacking squishy targets is still a very good idea since you still do very good damage to them. Just don't let these numbers take you away from punching squishies, but also keep in mind that tanks are technically more efficient if you're specifically trying to farm your ultimate in neutral. It all just depends on kind of what you need in the moment, and maybe you need to get an ultimate because you know that the enemy supports don't have their ults online, maybe they're out of the fight. Like, there's a lot of different situational things you can do with this empowered melee. Just know it's not black and white. It's this weird gray area with the character that really just depends on a lot. This damage is comparable to Wolverine, by the way, if not better, since it is more consistent. Just keep in mind though that you can't really pull anyone away like you can with Wolverine, which is why the Wolverine is so good at killing tanks. But this isn't all though about the primary fire that's empowered here. These punches also have an upgraded lunge distance of not 6 meters, but 11 meters with a much faster speed of a dash as well to your target. However, you want to make sure that you're actually tracking your targets with your movement, because if you don't, they're going to detach from the enemy and then you're going to be missing out on a lot of punches on them, so they're probably going to be able to live and get some healing. This also tells you how you might want to engage on specific tanks, for example. So let's take like Doctor Strange. Instead of trying to parry and latch onto him right away when you get the chance, you can pressure him with your team, force him to jump in the sky, and then knock him down with a normal primary combo. Then after that, you're going to probably be able to parry parry since he'll have some darkness online as well. And then after that, I mean, he's cooked. You're gonna go ham. He has no options to escape. He's probably dead. The same kind of idea also goes for Venom, although it is a lot harder in this case because, you know, you're gonna have to time that punch up perfectly right when he goes to pull himself away with his swing. Now, someone like Hulk, for example, is a lot easier because you can kind of anticipate when he turns around, he's probably gonna be jumping soon. Even though the damage is insane though, make sure that you are not getting carried away with it. While there are times that you can burn a parry and just start ripping punches, the better the enemy team is, the more likely they're going to save stuns for you after you go in, not before you use your parry. If you were up a pick in the fight, you can rip a parry and snowball the fight afterwards, but in very even 6v6 fights with some ultimates online, typically you are better off just using your normal primary punches to force a cooldown, parry, and then retaliate off of a mistake that they might make by killing them in a 1v1. You live and die by your parry, so make sure you're using it carefully. Moving on, we have Iron Fist's kick that does more than just move you around the map at incredible speeds. There are actually two uses for this ability, either to deal damage or for movement. Did you know it actually does more damage the less HP your enemies have? Upon pressing shift by default, Iron Fist performs a spinning kick that deals 2 instances of damage. The first kick will always deal 35 damage. The second instance of damage, the second kick hit here, is going to deal 35 damage at base, but it can also deal 70 damage, double that damage if the target that you're hitting is less than 50% HP, allowing you to have a very powerful finishing tool on your way out or on your way into a fight. You might think that you should only use this ability when the enemies are less than 50 HP, but that isn't exactly the case. Part of getting really good with this ability is gauging when that first hit of the kick is actually going to get the target below half HP for the second instance of damage from your second kick to deal amplified damage by surprise. What if no one is low though, or you think you'll need the ability to get out of the fight? You can also use the kick to run or close the distance since it dashes you quickly 12 meters forward, which might be the exact distance you need to connect to a flyer in the sky to rage bait them. I find myself using the kick for this more often than not, but it is even more effective if I have a hit scan, like the Punisher already shooting my target in the air, making it just a free pick for me the moment I connect to them. It is important to note though that once you hit a target with the kick, you are completely halted from your movement forward. This could be either really good or really bad. Good if you want to actually punch your target, bad if you're trying to get out. If you are trying to leave, just make sure you are far away from enemies. Finally, the dash from the kick does carry momentum, so just make sure you're using at least one of your jumps before kicking for maximum distance. This brings us to Iron Fist's final normal ability, Harmony Recovery, that allows him to meditate, healing himself over time. Iron Fist heals himself for 100 health per second in this form, and any excess healing gets converted into bonus health for up to 100 bonus health. The bonus health does decay over time, although it does take a couple of seconds. He can meditate for a maximum of 3 seconds every 12 seconds. In this form, you are incredibly vulnerable to the enemies, as they can shoot you, and if they find you, they most definitely will shoot you since you are just a stationary target. You also don't begin to meditate right away. There is a slight charge up period that makes the bell ringing noise that then alerts the enemies of where you are, after which you will get the regeneration. It is also very loud when you go to meditate, so you want to make sure you actually place yourself around cover where it is hard to reach you, making it much harder for the enemies to kill you. Typically, you want to use the recovery before a fight starts, and then you want to jump on your enemies while it is on cooldown, force out enemy cooldowns, leave, meditate, repeat. You are movement locked while in this ability, which also means gravity does not affect you while meditating too, which could get you set up in some pretty cheeky spots on choke points, especially on domination maps. This is also the appropriate time to mention Iron Fist and his team up with Luna Snow that gives supportive capabilities to his meditation for the team. While Luna Snow is on the squad, your meditation heals friendlies in a 10-meter cylindrical spell field around you for 55 per second. Essentially, you just give your whole team a lesser version of your meditation. It doesn't actually give you anything more, but your team will definitely feel it and thank you as a result. Be careful not to fly too high in the air though before you meditate, because then your team actually won't be in range to get that extra health. To be honest, this doesn't really change your playstyle all that much from what you're trying to do from just fight to fight. It's just free value for your entire team to brawl out harder and win with a health advantage. Let's finally discuss his ultimate Living Chi that turns Iron Fist into an absolute monster. Upon using the ultimate, Iron Fist gains a 30 30% damage boost, as well as a 20% movement speed boost for 12 seconds, allowing him to beat any enemy he chooses to a pulp. Not only this, but he also gets double the range on his punches, enjoys a 3-second cooldown on his parry, and even refreshes the parry after going into the ultimate. So the way you're going to want to use this ultimate is to go in, parry, get behind a wall nearby, or maybe even greed some damage, pop ult then, and go again. The nice part about the ultimate too is that you can get access to the empowered melees by default. You don't even need a parry to have access to this increased damage. The parry is specifically there for you to block damage and heal yourself. Understand, however, that while you are in ult, you are the main character, so a lot more is going to get thrown your way, forcing you to really lock in with the parries. Outside of ultimate, it also only costs 3,400 points to charge this ability, meaning you're going to be getting it insanely fast if you are punching tanks constantly. Typically, you'll want to rip ult and pressure supports, forcing them to ult, leave, and then when your team support ults, you can use that time to farm another ult and rip another before the enemy team has something to respond, since, well, they just used a support ult that you forced. Overall, if you're very good with Iron Fist's standalone kit, you're going to be a menace with the ultimate. You just have to be sure that you draw the line between carrying and doing too much. It is very easy to get excited and do too much after getting your first pick. Take a deep breath, you'll be fine. Get your value, don't overstay your welcome, and be patient. All right, now that we have discussed all of Iron Fist's abilities, let's start talking about what counters him. Starting with tanks, a lot of people seem to think that the Thing counters him, but in my opinion, so long as you play around your team, you can absolutely melt this guy and he can't really fight back. Instead, the funny front line that has been a meta for a while, Emma and Magneto, feels pretty darn horrible to play against. Mag Bubble can just pretty much be put on anyone you engage on, and Emma in her diamond form will take you out of whatever you want to do. Penny is also really annoying, but that really goes for any dive characters, so I don't really think we have to spend all that much time talking about her. As for DPS, Namor can be pretty annoying since you can't really do anything about the squids since you don't lock onto them, making them much harder to catch up to, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to your parry for most matchups and whether or not you can win the mind game. Unless you were against Bucky, then just go next. Phoenix can also be annoying with the stun. And you know, Daredevil can also just see wherever you're going all the time, but he doesn't really just flat out win the 1v1, but yeah, there are some annoying characters, I'll be honest, on DPS. Supports are a little different though. Rocket can be annoying to catch if he plays around walls consistently because he can just launch himself to China, but characters like Adam Warlock are also kind of a nightmare since he can just soul bond his team and make you useless. Flyers like Ultron might sound annoying, but Iron Fist actually has no problem connecting to him and punching him down, which I honestly didn't understand at first, especially when I was first watching pro games. But after playing against pretty good Iron Fists, I definitely understand it now. As for who Iron Fist wants to play with, Luna Snow gets the obligatory shout out here, not just for the team up, but you know, it's Luna Snow, guys. Like, why not just play Luna? Venom and Captain America synergize really well with a dive-centric playstyle in Iron Fist for Vanguards, allowing you to easily take out supports and go from there. You also just can't really go wrong brawling out with characters like Emma and Mag, even though they are annoying to play against too. As for DPS, you really could go anywhere with this one. Psylocke is really nice if you want to dive like a Hela, for example, together, but having that Hela yourself and punching the enemy Psylocke off of your Hela is also just a decent option. Finally, for supports, you might think a character like Mantis would be really great to pair with Iron Fist, but this isn't actually the case. This is because her damage boost doesn't actually help you deal any more meaningful damage while in your empowered punching form. Instead, characters like Luna and Cloak and Dagger are far better because they can just sustain themselves without you really needing to help them, giving your team room for another DPS to follow up on the opportunities you are creating, since usually with the Mantis, you're running triple support anyways. As for who you want to play Iron Fist against, I personally love playing against tanks like Thing and Groot that don't really have the most mobility, and I can just fry them down with my empowered melees. I also don't mind playing against enemy hit scans if they are trying to do off angles by themselves, as I can simply just never allow them to do that. When they have an invis shield, that's when things start to get a little hard, but not really impossible either. Finally, flyers like Johnny, Iron Man, Ultron, and Angela have such a hard time against a very active Iron Fist player. It might not make sense to you, but I promise you guys, play against Iron Fist on one of these characters that flies, you are going to want to feel violent after that. It is easily the most annoying character to play a flyer into. That's not even a stretch. Now that we understand Iron Fist and his kit, as well as where he is applicable, let's take a look at a couple of VODs to get an even better understanding of his kit. All right, y'all, so today we're going to be looking at Benser, who honestly, I recognize the name from Ranked. He's a top 500 Iron Fist player with a 60% win rate after 100 games, which is absolutely crazy considering how most Iron Fist players are just playing Daredevil right now. And what I want to show you guys is how patient he is on the Iron Fist throughout the fight. We can see he is playing against a rocket penny, by the way, so it's very difficult for him to really get anything done. But I want to show you guys when he engages, when he doesn't, even though he dies in some places. How is he getting value out of Iron Fist, when he can go in, when he can't. So right here, the reason why he's going in is strictly because the Psylocke is ulting, so he needs to try to make some space for her. She dies, and so now he just kind of has to get out, and he's just chilling. A lot of times, he's just vibing out, helping his team live more with the Luna Snow team up, not trying to get too much done because he really can't, and really just deflecting to try to get as much damage on tanks as possible. He gets good damage on the mag, he's immediately going to leave. He will probably die through this Psylocke ult, but that is completely okay. But what ends up happening is that after, he's going to get rezzed by the Adam Warlock here, and we're going to see how much value he actually gets, not from this like really aggressive dive-centric play style against what he's playing against, but instead as a, oh, I'm going to catch you because you're trying to Bucky ult in, I'm actually just going to punch you through this ult and completely stop the ult right away. Pretty much just deflects just to dodge the Bucky ult and immediately finds a pick on him right thereafter because the Bucky can't really do anything there unless he kills somebody. So he did a really good job appealing for his teammates there, and then he's just going to kind of float next to the tanks, get his parry, immediately use it even though there's really nothing scary about it, just so that he can then immediately force out his support ult. So obviously this is not like a super dive-centric playstyle. It's a lot more poised, a lot more just calm, playing the fight very smart here to force out both support ults, and then he can just clean up with his ult because he already forced that out with the parry from earlier. So like this is very solid, very patient Iron Fist gameplay, which is what is required to get the most out of this character. If you wanted to speed things up a little bit, you probably just have to play Daredevil, and that's what most Iron Fist players are really just doing right now. But all in all, this is really solid from a very good Iron Fist player that I recognize in ranked. So let's look at another 2 VODs to see if there's anything else we can learn from this very solid gameplay. All right, y'all, so for this incoming fight, I really want to focus on how he's using his wall climbing passive to maintain height in the fight and have a really nice angle to kind of see who is where. So on Daredevil, I know we're making a lot of comparisons to him, but they are very similar. It's just very easy to know when someone's isolated because you can just like look through a wall and it's fine. But right here, he's using his wall climbing passive to then make sure that his jumps are actually always going on cooldown and are not halted with their cooldowns, which is really nice because it allows him to stay higher up in the air and have this bird's eye view almost. So here he sees, oh, both nests are behind. This means I can kind of go on anyone that's here. Immediately sees that the Luna Snow is isolated, parries for pretty much nothing, to be honest, but it doesn't matter because then the damage is just so big. Punches her for like 2 seconds, kicks her when she's low to finish her off, and then bam, the Psylocke does the rest for him. Honestly, like, yeah, it might look super simple what he's doing, but again, immediately after this fight, just using this jump, wall climb to constantly maintain height is allowing him to have the perfect place, the perfect like timing to go on these supports almost always here. So I haven't actually seen this yet, but as you can see, immediately he can just get on the back line, force things out, parries, and then it's just gonna leave, you know, pressure things out, but that's all you need to do. Pressure the back line, then there's no healing in the front line, then you can kick back to your team and kill the tank that isn't getting healing because you have execute damage. All in all, this is really solid gameplay from Benzer on the Iron Fist. I'm curious if they're actually gonna win this fight here. Now it's just a complete freestyling here. I mean, just punching the mag so he can get his parry, and then immediately he's just gonna do damage more because there are support ults down. And he's just going to be able to charge this ult so darn quickly here. Like, how fast did he charge it there? I guess he didn't charge it all that. No, he actually did charge it quite fast there. He was at 50%, immediately skyrockets all the way up to 64% after one use of a parry, which is absolutely insane. Because there's a support ult going down and he already killed the penny, he knows that there's really no threat anymore. He'll just use the parry to do damage, and then again, back up on the height here, immediately resetting. He's with his Psylocke, goes on the supports again, probably kicks this guy to kill him if he needs to, but the Psylocke's there to help him out, so he doesn't even need to waste the kick. Uses on Luna Snow and just pressures so much. He almost has another ult, and he started this fight at 50%. Does die by going a little too deep there, but then he immediately gets res like this constant, I get high grounds, I go on backline, I pressure something out, I don't do too much too often. Probably could have held that ult, to be honest, here before the invis went down, but this is this constant gameplay loop of resetting, getting on height, going back into the team, not doing too much, and this constant rotation, just uptime, is just so lethal to the enemy teams. It's very annoying. It's incessant. And you're just going to be able to get a lot of value out of this. So, you know, it's nothing too crazy here. It's like just very calm, collected, making sure you're really going in at the right times. But let's see if there's anything else we can gather from the rest of this game for one final VOD. All right, y'all. So for the last VOD, I wanted to kind of show you guys how he plays these like defense fights. And there's actually a cool little thing that he's doing to pressure the enemy team, specifically when they have these triple support compositions where it's actually like pretty good what he's doing. Like, it's a very solid idea here. So what he's going to be here, honestly, I think he should be meditating right now, but there's maybe a reason why he's not. Maybe he wants to save meditate for later. I'm not entirely sure, but I think we meditate here just because the fight's going to last that long. That's like a little bit of a mid-maxy thing here. But as you can see, just waiting for the team to go in, punches the mag here, parries, but instead of going in here where he's going to take a lot of damage, he's actually going to leave this fight so that he can conserve his bonus health, so that the next time he goes in, which will be now, he's going to have this bonus health while the team splits up and is in rotation a little bit, where he might get caught out if he goes in a little deeper. But what this does is it actually allows him to go in here and do a lot of damage to this Luna Snow, get a bunch of kicks in. He still has the bonus health from the last parry, and now he can use this parry to possibly, you know, get another, he uses the parry to get his punches back online. I think he could have punched for a little bit longer, arguably, if we really wanted to min-max this. And then it allows him to go in even more aggressively. It wasn't like the best use of this kind of idea, but I do think parrying early, going back, and then engaging again on a support when they're more split up, when you have that bonus HP, is an interesting idea that I don't really see a lot of Iron Fists doing, and it's not something we talked about a lot today. And then immediately after that, it just makes it super easy for him to just go in with the rest of his team and clean up a bunch of picks with them. But like, this is something that we didn't really talk about in the guide that I just kind of noticed right now when I was sifting through everything. So all in all, very good play from Benza here on the Iron Fist. Again, I do think Daredevil at the highest levels of play does get a little bit more value, but it really just depends on the player and whether or not they want to play it or not. I do think that Iron Fist is still like, obviously he's very good. If we have a 60% win rate on Iron Fist in the top 500 players, like obviously this character can be pretty darn good. So I'm very interested, sorry, to see where this character goes in the future, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. And that closes out today's guide for Iron Fist and Marvel Rivals. If you have any questions, make sure to send them in the comments down below, as well as asking me live right now here on YouTube or on Twitch at twitch.tv/PazSwagger. I try to stream every single day I upload, so be sure to check me out to learn more about everything I talked about today. Thank you guys all so much for watching, but until next time, I've got to peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.